Slavery has existed since ancient times, practiced by civilizations such as the Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, and Chinese. It was typically a result of war, conquest, debt, or punishment for crimes. In many ancient societies, slaves were employed in various capacities, from household servants to laborers and even skilled artisans. The transatlantic slave trade, beginning in the early 16th century, was one of the most devastating and inhumane forms of slavery. European colonists in the New World required a large labor force for their plantations, which led to the forced transportation of millions of Africans to the Americas. Captured Africans endured the horrific Middle Passage, a voyage across the Atlantic Ocean characterized by overcrowded ships, inhumane conditions, disease, and brutality. Many did not survive the journey. Those who did were sold into slavery in markets across the Americas. Slavery became integral to the economic systems of the American colonies, particularly in the Caribbean, Brazil, and the southern United States. Enslaved Africans were forced to work on sugar, tobacco, cotton, and coffee plantations, among other industries. Their labor was essential to the economic growth and wealth of these colonies. Enslaved people lived under harsh and brutal conditions. They faced physical abuse, severe punishment, and a complete lack of personal freedom. Families were often separated, and individuals were treated as property rather than human beings. Despite these conditions, enslaved Africans maintained cultural practices, formed communities, and resisted their oppressors in various ways. This included subtle forms of resistance, such as work slowdowns, and more direct actions, such as rebellions and escapes. By the late 18th century, opposition to slavery began to grow. Enlightenment ideals of liberty and equality, combined with the efforts of abolitionists, began to challenge the institution of slavery. Key figures included Olaudah Equiano, a former slave who wrote a powerful autobiography, and William Wilberforce, a British politician who campaigned tirelessly against the slave trade. The British Parliament passed the Abolition of the Slave Trade Act in 1807, making the transatlantic slave trade illegal in the British Empire. The United States followed with a similar law in 1808. However, illegal smuggling of enslaved people continued for some time. The process of abolishing slavery itself was more prolonged and varied by region. In the British Empire, the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 gradually emancipated slaves. In the United States, the abolition movement gained momentum in the 19th century, leading to the Civil War, 1861-1865. President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, and the 13th Amendment, ratified in 1865, officially abolished slavery. The abolition of slavery had profound economic and social impacts. In the southern United States, the end of slavery led to the Reconstruction era, a turbulent period of rebuilding and integrating freed slaves into society. The economic systems that had relied on slave labor had to be restructured. Even after emancipation, former slaves and their descendants faced significant challenges, including racial discrimination, segregation, and economic disenfranchisement. The struggle for civil rights continued into the 20th century, with landmark achievements such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 in the United States. The legacy of slavery continues to shape societies today. It has left an indelible mark on culture, identity, and social structures. The contributions of African Americans and the resilience of enslaved people are celebrated and remembered through literature, music, art, and education. Slavery is a painful and significant part of human history, reminding us of the capacity for both inhumanity and resilience. Understanding its origins, implementation, and abolition helps us appreciate the ongoing struggles for freedom, equality, and justice. It also highlights the importance of remembering and honoring the experiences and contributions of those who endured and resisted enslavement. As we reflect on this history, we can draw lessons that inform our efforts to build a more just and equitable world.